So good morning, everyone, and you're very welcome to this webinar that will give you an insight into a student's journey to attaining the Level 9 Retirement Planning Advisor or RPA designation with LIA. My name is Eva Lavin. I'm Head of Education in LIA, and I'm delighted to be joined today by James Skean, Independent Professional Trustee with 45 years of pension industry experience and lecturer for this course, so bringing an absolute wealth of knowledge to his lectures. And we're also joined by Kellyanne Quinn, who is a recent graduate of the course and has attained the Retirement Planning Advisor designation and has also recently completed her final modules within the Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Planning and successfully attained the CFP designation. So congratulations, Kellyanne, on that. So thank you both so much for joining and participating in this webinar. I suppose just to give a little bit of background to people who might not be familiar with the RPA designation, the RPA is the leading designation for pension advisors in Ireland, and it's exclusively available through LIA. To attain the designation, you must complete one module called Retirement Planning, and this module is one of the modules on the Postgraduate Diploma in Financial Planning. So it can be completed as part of this program or on a standalone basis. Some of you, I suppose, might be familiar with the Level 7 route, the RPA designation, and this route will no longer be offered from September. And the Level 9 route will be, which we will be discussing today, I suppose, will be the only route available to attain the RPA designation from September. So before we get started, I suppose I encourage our audience, to ask questions. You will see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and we have set some time aside at the end to answer these questions. And I suppose any questions we don't get to, we'll follow up with individuals afterwards. This webinar is the last in our three-part series where we were joined by past students and lecturers discussing the journey to CFP. And I suppose all webinars have been recorded. So if you do wish to view these, they are available through our website. So to start off, James, can I maybe ask you to give us an insight as to, I suppose, what students might expect from the course over the 12 weeks? And I suppose, what the overall learning outcomes you hope students will achieve.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Eva. Yeah, as you mentioned in the intro, I've been working in pensions for over 45 years at this stage. But in fact, the last 3 years has seen more change in terms of pension than the previous 40 years. So for me, it's an incredible, exciting, but also challenging time to be involved in the pensions industry. And, I think the RPA designation will help students in their working life, in advising clients. And the idea of the course is to cover all aspects of pension planning. Just to give you an indication, like the textbook itself runs to close on 500 pages and divided into 16 different chapters. We start off with the state pension because that's the first building block of any sort of pension planning. And that in itself is going through changes at the moment, and we'll cover those in some detail in the course. We will then look at individuals and how they go about planning for retirement. And that will cover the self-employed, proprietary directors, employees. And for employees, we'll cover employees in both the public and the private sector. And then within the private sector, we'll cover both defined contribution and defined benefit schemes. Now, the student might think, well, why do I need to look at defined benefit? Because, there's very few defined benefit schemes out there. There is very few schemes, but there's quite a number of individuals that are either still in defined benefit schemes or were previously in defined benefit schemes and have an entitlement. So a good understanding of defined benefit schemes and how they work is actually critical in terms of the overall advice that you give. We'll then look at benefits that can be provided at retirement. And with the recent changes in legislation, that's become a very interesting whole area of advice and learning. We'll then look at leaving service options. Should an individual leave their benefits where they are, or should they transfer out? And again, we'll go through the pros and cons of the whole process. Charges, again, becoming very, very important. Every single message coming from the Pensions Authority refers to value for money. And obviously charges are at the core of the whole issue of value for money. Increasingly, there's a lot of marriages and relationships breaking down. So there's a significant chapter on pension adjustment orders and how they impact the pension fund for both the member and the non-member. One of the changes, I think, from the level 7 to level 9 is that we have brought in quite a number of chapters on the whole group side of the business. And that will cover both group risk, but also the group pension side. And in particular, we'll concentrate on IRP2, which came into effect in April 2021. And, that has just changed the whole pension landscape completely. Master trusts are now starting to dominate the pension landscape. We'll go through those in detail, but we'll also look at the PRSA alternative. And in fact, going back slightly, that's becoming really a very significant alternative for the individual, the company owner. And then last but not least, in terms of group pensions, we will talk about auto enrollment. It's been on the starting block for some years, but now it looks like, hopefully, fingers crossed, it will start from next year. And that in itself will also have a huge impact on existing pension schemes. Investment, again, is very important. And a core part of the investment section is sustainable investment, ESG, environmental, social, and governance. That's coming about as a result of both EU regulations, but also clients are demanding more sustainable investment to be included in their overall portfolio. And then we'll finish off with fact finding, how you go about putting together a proposal for a client, the information that you need to get, where can you get it, how you put together a report or a proposal. And then we finish off with a number of case studies both for individual clients, but also for employers. So yeah, it's going to be a fairly packed schedule and course, but I'm looking forward to it. And I think one key element I would strongly urge people our students is to ask questions throughout. That's what really makes the whole program more interesting, more entertaining, rather than just listening to me for 2.5 hours every week.
Great, James. No, that was brilliant. I suppose, Kellyanne, do you have any thoughts maybe just on your own experience during the course?
The weekly lectures with James are so beneficial. Like, I had completed the RPA designation in 2015 under level 7, but doing it under level 9, having those weekly lectures, as James said, interactive. If maybe you're not comfortable asking questions, but chances are somebody's going to ask what you're thinking. And then the lectures are recorded so you can look back on them. And they also give you, the format's the same as the other postgrad modules. So it gives you a feeling of what to expect. And then James also, not only is he just going through the topics, but he's also relaying his own experience as well, and making it practical of what you're learning.
Kelly, I had one thing on the questions. At the start of the very first lecture last year, I said, nobody knows all the answers, not even me, which was just as well, because 10 minutes into the first lecture, I got asked a question that I genuinely didn't know the full answer to. Yeah. So, but, and that's the point. Nobody should be afraid to ask a question. And if I don't know the answer, basically what I do is I go off and research it, get the answer, and then send it back via the LIA to circulate amongst the students.
Yeah, that's great. No, it's really great. And James, sorry, I think your camera might be glitching a little bit. Okay. If you want, you can turn it off.
Sure.
But
still sound?
I suppose yes, yeah, you're good, all good, okay. Yeah. So I suppose just leading on from that, like part of the function, within the education team and LIA as well, is to support students throughout the journey. So I suppose I just like to reassure any potential students that LIA are also here to support you, along your journey. And, Kellyanne, you might be able to even kind of reaffirm that, with, maybe your experience studying this module, and also maybe just, again, I suppose just to reiterate the interaction with the lecturer and, the resources that were provided as well.
Yeah, so first of all, that textbook is just brilliant. And, I first got the RPA textbook in 2015, and I've downloaded the latest version ever since and saved it to my desktop, and I refer back to it all the time. And as everything's changing, that's been updated. Then you've got, the LIA education support team. You can email them questions. Your lecturer is available to you, Jane. And as he said, if he doesn't know the answer, he'll send an email around then after the lecture. And you have that. He provides additional reading as well that supports the lectures. Your timetable is set out from the beginning, so you know where your continuous assessment exams are. And those continuous assessment exams, you've got maybe 3 lectures, then an exam. So you're just, it's all in pieces. It's not like the pressure of one exam at the end. And yeah, you're with and your peers as well. You feel, you know, it might be online, but cameras are on and it is interactive and you don't feel alone.
Right. And
I think the exam, sorry, Eva, I think the exam
yeah.
structure is very good for students because it's, you know, 2 in-class assessments and then the final exam, and it's 25%, 25% and 50%. So a student will know as they're going on, you know, they've either got points in the bag from the first or second assessment, or they know they might have fallen behind and they need to make up ground, rather than a big bang at the end where it's all on one day. So I think that structure is very good.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we mentioned this on the last webinar as well. You know, like in LIA, we speak with students on a daily basis, and definitely the continuous assessment piece does alleviate the pressure, I suppose, that the students feel if they're not relying on, you know, one final exam at the end. And, you know, we're very conscious that, you know, students are working while also trying to study, and, you know, the team want to help support students, you know, during the course and guide them along the way. And we are aware as well that, you know, students might not always be available to, you know, attend lectures live. So the benefit that we provide our students is giving them access to the lecture recordings. And I know, Kellyanne, you found this beneficial. And I suppose maybe do you want to talk about your approach to, you know, the lectures, the you know, how you found the recordings, and also maybe just a bit about that, the work-life balance and how you kind of manage that?
Yeah, so you definitely need to put time into it. Like what you put in, you will get back. But yeah, I made sure that I was physically available to attend the lectures, but sometimes I mightn't have been mentally there and the information mightn't be going in. So being able to play back that recording, you know, maybe on a Saturday morning. As I said, the additional readings, they support the topic. So they're interesting. It's, you know, an article or a report. And then what you're learning, you're simulating it into your job immediately. It's not like you're learning and then you're pushing it aside. It's practical information that you can then bring back to your clients. So straight away you're incorporating it, and it's like a gradual learning process. But you definitely do need to put some time aside to give, you know, prepare for your lectures and then go over what you've learned. But those 12 weeks, they go by so fast. It's hard to believe when you're at the end of it.
Yeah, and I suppose, James, like in terms of the content as well, and as Kellyanne says, how practical it is there anything maybe you'd just like to add on that point?
Yeah, you know, I suppose there's 2 parts to it. There's learning the information, but also there's no point having the information unless you can put it into practice. And really, that's sort of the approach that I take. Yeah, again, going back to the 45 years, I've worked in insurance companies, I've worked in brokerages, I've been a corporate trustee. So what I try to do is bring, if you like, case study examples, scenarios that I've been working in, and bring those to the lectures so that people can see that the information can be applied in a practical situation. One point to bear in mind, and you know, Kellyanne mentioned that the textbook is always being updated, but from a cutoff point, I will stop updating it at the end of June, and we'll send it to the printers sometime in July/August. So that's important for people to know, because again, even last year, you know, there was changes in legislation and regulations during the lectures, and we will touch on them, but it won't be needed for the purpose of the assessments or the exam. So it's information up to the end of June will be included, but not after that.
Right. Okay. Thanks, James. And you know, it's great to hear those insights. And I suppose, you know, one of the main questions and concerns that we always hear from students is the time commitment, you know, involved in the course, attending the lectures, and trying to balance while their study while also kind of working, you know, full time. So it's great to hear, you know, from your perspective, Kellyanne, that, you know, it is manageable, and I suppose that it is doable, you know, for people, and the course is designed in that way that we are aware that, you know, people that are undertaking this course are working full time as well while studying. So I suppose just to follow up on another question, Kellyanne, so I suppose what has this designation maybe added to you firstly, I suppose, from like a credibility point of view, and even secondly, can you share with us how the knowledge and skills you've gained from the course has been directly applied to your work in financial planning?
Yeah, so as I said, mentioned, I first got the designation in 2015, and I would say about maybe I think 90% of my work is pension based, and that would be as a direct result of having those skills, being able to guide my clients confidently through their pension journey. As James touched on earlier, like there's been so many changes. I don't know, 46 years or 45 years experience, of 26 years experience, so not as much. But yeah, like last year, you know, we saw the removal of executive pensions. We had to tell our company directors, I'm sorry, you can't put all that money that you'd intended in this year. We had to go back to them and say, oh, benefit in kind is removed from PRSAs. By the way, you can put all that money in, and you can put more. And so to being able to explain it and reassure them, and if you don't have the confidence, they will be nervous. Also, you know, with pensions, your clients, they tend to suddenly be faced with decisions with large pots of money that they've never had before. And you need to be able to, you know, set out their options in a way that they can understand. So you need to be able to fully understand it. And so, yeah, having all those skills has definitely given me confidence in my advice and given my clients confidence in me.
Yeah. And I think, you know, James, you touched on this earlier, you know, the pension landscape, you know, has changed so much and is constantly changing. And I suppose what students are really getting from this course is, you know, up-to-date information, up-to-date knowledge as well.
That's right. And again, from a practical point of view, like one of the big things that's happening at the moment is standalone group pension schemes are having to wind up and to move across to a master trust or be replaced completely by a PRSA. So over the last 18 months, one of the schemes that I was in, that I'm still involved in, I'm a trustee of, involved moving from one registered administrator to another. That actually involved moving over 7,000 members and assets of 300 million. And that was right in the middle of the Ukrainian invasion, the Ukrainian crisis. So, you know, it's bringing that practical experience to the lectures. So I certainly talk the talk, but I've also walked the walk.
Great, thanks, James. And I suppose I just have really like a final question for you both. I suppose, would you have any additional, you know, words of encouragement for anyone on today's webinar who's maybe thinking about making the decision to undertake the retirement planning module? And Kellyanne, I might maybe start with you first on this.
Yeah, so I think if you're on the call, you have an interest in the pensions industry, and everything you learn, you're going to use it. There's no part of it that does not relate to you and your pension clients. And that's not just, you mightn't be client facing, but working in, you know, company pension administration or anything, you know, it's all applicable and it's all relevant. And if you're thinking, you know, you might be looking at the postgrad, the RPA is a good place to start because, you know, it's the format's the same as the other modules. And at the end of it, you have the RPA. So I think if you're thinking about it, just do it. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Kellyanne. And James, anything on your side?
Yeah, no, I would echo that. Again, getting back to my 45 years, the first qualification that I obtained was in 1978, believe it or not. Right. But the most recent one was in 2019 when I did the LIA PTP trustee course. And I just have always had this view that, you know, you need to have knowledge, and having got the knowledge, you need to apply the knowledge. And as I say, I think the RPA is without any shadow of a doubt, the best pension qualification out there at the moment.
Great. Thank you both. I'm sure you've given people a lot to think about on this webinar as they're maybe preparing to take the next step towards, you know, attaining the RPA designation. I'm going to just share now on screen some contact information where you can find out further information. So I'll just kind of get that popped up now for you on screen. It might just take a minute. But yeah, so there it is. So I suppose you can find out some more information, you know, about the course directly via our website, www.lia.ie, or you can email our team directly at level9@lia.ie. And finally, you can always reach out to my colleague, Brian Dunphy, who has been through the course himself. And he also has the full postgraduate diploma in financial planning. So he'll be able to advise you on the next steps if you're undecided. And you can contact him directly at brian.dunphy@lia.ie. So in the time that's left, we do have a number of questions that came in. So I'm just going to have a little look at them now. So we seem to have a few questions going to around, enrollment and start dates. So I suppose the next course starts in September. So you can enroll now via the website. The registration close off is the 26th of August. What I will say, I suppose, like there is a high demand for this course. So we really do recommend early registration, even if it's just to get your application into us so we can process it and kind of know that we have you on the list for the September intake. We will have another intake for this course, which will commence in February of next year, and registration for that term will be open towards the end of the year. For the course in September, it starts on the 5th of September, and lectures will be on Tuesday evenings from 6 to 8:30, and all lectures will be online, and as we mentioned earlier, they're also recorded. Check if there's any more. Okay, a couple of questions, I suppose, in about the level 7 course. So I suppose for those who want to complete the postgraduate diploma and become a CFP, you will need to complete the retirement planning module, even if you hold the RPA previously by doing the level 7 course, as there's no, I suppose, exemptions available for this module. But anyone who does hold the RPA designation and needs to complete the retirement planning module will be entitled to a reduced registration fee. And I know, James, you mentioned, this earlier a little bit about the additional learning that students can expect moving from level 7 to level 9. But just for anyone who might have joined a little bit later, would you just be able to maybe just kind of cover those few points again?
Yeah, okay. So basically, one of the big things about the course is it is going to be bang up to date. So it takes into account all the changes in legislation and regulations over the last number of years up to the end of June. And I suppose one of the particular, enhancements from the level 7 is the fact that there's quite a number of chapters on the whole area of group pensions, both group risk and group pensions. And as a result, we're going to cover master trusts, auto-enrollment, the use of PRSAs for group schemes, and the whole impact of IOR2 and the Pensions Authority, who, as a regulatory body, they have an objective of reducing the number of schemes to 200 by the end of 2027. And bear in mind, there's about 80,000 schemes there at the moment. It's going to be a tall order, and therefore a huge, huge, huge demand for advice and good quality pension advice. So that's, I suppose, really the enhancement from the level 7 that I see.
Great, thanks, James.
And sorry, and then also, on the investment side, the whole sustainable investment aspect has been brought into the equation.
Great, thanks, James. And we have questions as well, just in relation to, exam timetables and the continuous assessment piece. So the timetable is available via our website, so you can actually see the full breakdown of the lecture schedule and when each continuous assessment exam takes place. The continuous assessment piece, it is broken down into 3 exams. The first 2 are worth 25% towards your final mark, and then the final exam is worth 50% towards your final mark. So I think that's probably all we have time for this morning, but I suppose if there is any additional questions that anyone might have, please send them in to level9@lia.ie. Be more than happy to answer any queries that anyone might have.
Eva, sorry, yeah. One more point. I'm not sure if it's covered already, but there will be sample papers available for each of the first 2 assessments and the final exam.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because I suppose that's one of the questions that we're always asked as soon as someone signs up is looking for sample papers. So yeah, it is. And it gives people, I suppose, a really good indication as to what to expect, in the exam. No one is going to be going into an exam blind. They're very, very well prepared. And the sample papers, that James provides are, they're a great, I suppose, resource for people to help prepare them for the exam as well. Thanks for that, James. So I suppose just to say, thank you so much to Kellyanne and James, for joining us on this webinar and just for sharing your insights. It really is great to hear. Thank you to everyone who tuned in this morning. We hope that you did find it beneficial. We hope that you took something from it. We have a survey just at the very end of this webinar, so we'd really appreciate your feedback. So thanks again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
Thanks, Eva.